Katherine Cheng is Vice President of Culture, Inclusion, and Employee Engagement for the Seattle Mariners Baseball Organization. In this position, she is responsible for cultivating the culture of the Seattle Mariners and for leading internal and external community inclusion efforts. Prior to joining the Mariners in 2022, she worked in both private industry and for 3 U.S. government administrations under Presidents Clinton, Obama, and Biden. She's also a community leader, serving on the boards of trustees of the Seattle Center Foundation, Friends of the Waterfront, Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, and the Community Development Roundtable. She currently serves on the board of Cascadia Consulting Group, a women-owned consulting firm specializing in environment, health, and community, and she is the co-founder of several initiatives, including the Our Stories Are Your Stories campaign to combat Asian hate. Katherine is also one of our own. She has 3 degrees from the University of Washington in political science, American ethnic studies, and business administration. And we're very fortunate to have her here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Katherine Cheng.
Congratulations to all of you on this incredible achievement. I'm so honored to be here to celebrate with you. And to the families of the graduates, congratulations on surviving your graduate. I don't think it's lost on any of us the uncertainty of having a degree such as yours in these very interesting times. But I'm here to tell you why your degree has even more meaning than ever. You are positioned to make the most positive change ever based on what is happening in our world today. I hope my personal story will somehow inspire you or open your eyes to all the possibilities that lie ahead of you. When I graduated from the University of Washington in 1995, for those of you doing the math, yes, I was only 10. I did so with a degree in American ethnic studies and political science. I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this degree. Perhaps some of you are experiencing those same feelings. I was the youngest of 4 girls raised by a single mother. I grew up in a time where having an accent wasn't seen as cool and interesting. Rather, it made you lesser. International travel wasn't as readily available, and not everyone had a desire to travel abroad. So anyone from a different country or who looked different was definitely not seen as belonging here in the US. I didn't have an accent, and I was not from another country, and yet I was always asked where I was from. When I answered Bellevue, the next question was always, no, where are you really from? But because my mother did have a heavy accent, she experienced a lot of discrimination. By the way, what is it about people thinking that if you have an accent, they have to speak loudly and slowly to you? I saw this as a child, and as I grew to be a teenager, it made me angry at people treating my mother as if she was stupid. After all, my mother had a bachelor's of science degree from the University of Washington, a master's in biology from St. John's University, and she was getting her PhD in biochemistry from Columbia University. So as you can see, she was far from being stupid. Unfortunately, as was typical of the times, she abandoned the PhD when she started a family. This highly educated woman who raised 4 daughters on her own, worked as a cancer researcher with multiple patents to her name, and research papers where she got no credit because her sexist boss took her work and passed it off as his own. She had to work several jobs simultaneously, including piano and violin teacher, furniture upholsterer, math tutor, etc., to support her family because she wasn't paid her value. She was a genius, but she was judged on her sex and her heavy accent. To this day, it makes me so angry when someone is dismissed because they don't look a certain way. I would love to say those racist days are behind us, but unfortunately, like most bad nightmares, it's becoming a recurring theme. My mother, being a typical Asian mother, had high hopes of me and my sisters becoming doctors or lawyers. Despite her genius in math and science, none of her kids went into science. I chose a much more reputable career, politics. My career morphed from politics into high-tech PR, strategic communications, social impact and sustainability, DEI, and culture and inclusion. That's a lot of different areas of focus in my professional career with the degree I had. My mom doesn't understand any of it. She still asks me to this day what I do. I often ask myself that same question. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey. When I graduated from college, there was such opportunity. The world was increasingly becoming global. The North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, had just gone into effect, and years later, the World Trade Organization, or WTO, meetings would take place right here in Seattle, and massive protests would take place alongside those meetings. Seattle looked like a war zone. But the years after saw an incredible surge in global employment and cooperation. And you know who thrived the most? Those who could speak another language. I went to work for Governor Gary Locke, the first Chinese-American governor elected on the mainland. After working for Governor Locke, I worked for one global company after another. You may have heard of a few of them: Starbucks, Microsoft, Expedia. I also worked for 5 popularly elected presidents, of which only 3 actually served. Yes, think about that.
Yeah.
I try not to. It was an incredibly exciting time to work for companies that were having an impact around the world. And the ability to go to different countries, work with different people, and help bring products and services to bear through this lens of inclusion and diversity was truly incredible and extremely lucrative for the companies, I might add. My work at Starbucks took me all over the world, including places I probably would never have gone at such a young age. But in particular, I was able to go to China several times. Because I knew a lot about the people, the culture, the customs, and a little of the language, I found myself part of some amazing meetings and discussions. My work with Governor Locke led me to be tapped to participate in a small planning committee to host the first state visit from the President of China. We were charged with shaping the visit on behalf of the state and region, and really the country, since there was no love between President Hu Jintao and President George W. Bush. But Gary Locke was seen as the bridge between the two, so the state visit started in Seattle. This meant Seattle companies were given the opportunity to shine, and I was at the center of making this happen. The events would end in a state dinner at the home of Bill Gates. I found myself escorting the former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, and the Assistant Secretary of State, Christopher Hill, in an elevator from one floor to the next. This whole experience would open doors that would help shape my career to come. And since China was so hot, everyone wanted to increase business between the two countries. I traveled to China with the founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, and the expansion of Starbucks in China, which was already pretty strong, really started to grow. I ended up going to Microsoft, specifically in the Microsoft China office, to help guide and host all the Chinese companies and governmental entities from China who wanted to do business with Microsoft. What was embarrassing for me was that I didn't truly speak Chinese to the level that was needed for business. I mean, ask me to order food and you'll go into a food coma. But business was a different story. But it didn't matter, because even with my limited language abilities, understanding people was at the core of the relationships. I ended up moving on to Expedia in a role in social impact and sustainability, once again taking me around the world. The work I did over the next 10 years was the most impactful of my career, dealing with natural disasters and bringing sustainable solutions to the travel industry. Through all of this, the core was the understanding of different people and cultures. Alongside this work were my experiences driven by working with the White House. I traveled to many countries to staff multiple presidents, vice presidents, and first ladies for state visits and meetings such as the G20, getting a front row seat to diplomacy at work. Countries including China, Ukraine, Myanmar, Brazil, and so many others. Negotiating the visits and what could be covered by the media. None of this would have been possible without the amazing diplomats who worked all over the world, many in hardship posts, to ensure our countries were communicating and understanding each other 365 days a year, not just for the 2 weeks preparing for the visits. In my mind, there is no more important work on the international stage than what diplomats and aid workers, both governmental and nonprofit, do to ensure there is balance, whether it is on economic development or healthcare, and in particular diseases. It blows my mind that the U.S. has completely dismantled agencies such as USAID and others to provide the soft diplomacy that is needed to keep peace and goodwill between our countries around the world. Again, you know what is front and center for all the diplomats and aid forward to today and the atmosphere into which you are about to graduate. Have any of you heard of the Doomsday Clock? I promise, I'm not going to end on a negative note. For those of you who don't know about the Doomsday Clock, it was created by Albert Einstein and Robert Oppenheimer and a group of University of Chicago scientists who helped to develop the atomic bomb through the Manhattan Project. The Doomsday Clock was conceived in 1947 as a countdown to zero, or the apocalypse. I really do promise this does not end on a negative note. What drives the countdown are threats to humanity and the planet. Every year, the clock is set by scientists and security experts and is universally recognized as an indicator of the world's vulnerability to a global catastrophe caused by man-made technologies. This includes nuclear weapons, climate change, potential misuse of biological science, and other emerging technologies, such as AI, or A1, as the U.S. Secretary of Education calls it. Is there any wonder why the U.S. might be the most in danger? But just look at the war in Ukraine and other conflicts globally, the severe changes in climate that are causing devastating and more frequent weather incidents. When I was growing up, the term atmospheric river was not even in my purview. This year, I think we heard it happening here in Seattle no less than 3 times. And those 90-plus degree days in the summer becoming more and more frequent. As a true Washingtonian, I swore I would never get air conditioning. And guess what? Just last month, we installed AC. I'm not gonna lie, I kinda love it. And not to mention diseases we are dealing with, many that were all but eradicated and are currently making a comeback. And then, of course, new concerns like the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's no surprise that this year, the Doomsday Clock is, for the first time in history, the closest humankind has ever come to annihilating the human race. It was set to 89 seconds to midnight, and this was back in January. I can't imagine where the clock would be today. Some may say the timing of your particular degree is unfortunate. I don't think we could have predicted that our relationships on the global stage would be so fractured and the trust and cooperation we've enjoyed as a prosperous nation would so quickly be destroyed. Because of this, I say the timing of your degree is just what is needed. Even though many of us would like to put our heads under the covers and pretend what is happening is not happening, let's talk about what would happen if there weren't students like you all studying languages of the world, experiencing cultures of the world, interacting with different people of the world. Can you imagine not understanding the language and the culture of a country that you're trying to negotiate economic cooperation with? What about discussions on nuclear weapons? It would be potentially dangerous for diplomats negotiating these highly sensitive issues to unintentionally insult them because they don't understand their customs. How risky would it be to rely on other countries to accurately translate negotiations? Wouldn't that be crazy? Oh wait, that just happened last month in Russia. Good thing there's a lot of trust between our countries. My point is, we need highly skilled people who know how to speak different languages in every type of profession you can imagine. When you study language, you're studying culture, you're studying history. We can rely on AI for a lot of things, like doing complicated computations in a short period of time, analyzing complex data sets, speech recognition, and even augmenting human capabilities like writing speeches. By the way, I wrote this speech, not AI. But you can't rely on AI to have all that context and the human experience. Human connection matters. Bedside manner matters. Maybe one of you can fulfill my mother's dreams of becoming a doctor or lawyer, or engineer or translator. Did you know that there are even translators who work in sports? Oh, what is my point to you? My point is that with this degree you worked so hard for, you can go into any career you choose and truly make a difference. My path was very different from my mom's, but the decisions I made were based on her resilience. Seeing her strength helped me to persevere, many times in situations that were racist and sexist. But I believed in myself and never compromised on my commitment to doing my very best, despite any obstacles. I learned from my mom that obstacles are meant to be climbed over, not to stop you in your tracks. I didn't learn this on my own, by the way. I had mentors who helped me see the way forward. I stayed true to my beliefs, even sometimes to my detriment in the moment. I encourage you to do the same. Find those mentors and always be respectful yet curious, open-minded yet convicted to your moral character, well read about an issue or person before entering important discussions and meetings. What I'm trying to tell you is be true to yourself in the ways that you'll be proud of when you look back. I have no doubt you will have many obstacles in your way as you make your way out in this crazy world, but I know you will figure out how to navigate around and over them. I also have no doubt that you will use your degrees to become teachers, counselors, communicators, or work in many aspects of business. But I truly hope that many of you will become civil servants and, yes, diplomats. We need not only adults in the room, but we need adults who are compassionate and have a worldly view. We cannot let the past repeat itself. Rather, we need the past to inform the future, and those who actually know the past and the nuances of how the past came to be are the ones who can help move us forward and away from midnight on the doomsday clock. As I close my remarks to you, I want to leave you with this short quote from polymath Roger Bacon. Knowledge of languages is the doorway to wisdom. You have that knowledge of language now, so take that wisdom and do some